This is episode number 37 of the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast with our special guest, Felicia Romero, owner of FR Fit Method. Welcome to the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. My name is Jeff Thornton, alongside my co-host, Michael Anders. Each week, we bring you an inspiring person or message related to our three pillars of success: manifestation, business, fitness, and nutrition. Our intent is to enrich, educate, and empower our audience to take action, control, and accountability for their decisions. Thank you for allowing us to join you on your journey. Now let's get started. We would like to thank our sponsor, FitAid. If you're serious about your performance and recovery, go with FitAid. FitAid is the perfect pre- and post-workout supplement product. If you're dragging pre-workout, FitAid contains natural ingredients to give you that boost and pick-me-up you need without the jittery effect. And if you're looking for recovery after your workout, FitAid has branched-chain amino acids, or BCAAs, L-glutamine, L-arginine, vitamin C and D3, glucosamine, turmeric, CoQ10, and raw organic agave to accommodate the glycogen window and provide your body with a complete and clean recovery. Be sure to give them a try at lifeaidbevco.com, your local gym, or a grocery store near you.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 37 of the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. Mike Anders here with my co-host, Jeff Thornton.
What up?
And our guest today is the owner of Fit Method here in Arizona, Felicia Romero. What's going on, girl? How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good.
I'm so excited to be here.
You are, from what Mike RC tells me, you're one of the busiest people on the planet right now, so we really appreciate you taking the time to...
Oh, no problem. I definitely wanted to come and chat with you guys, so
Yeah, thanks for coming. Seriously. Holiday season and everything.
I know. And like we were talking about earlier, no one ever has time for anything.
Right.
You have to make time for the things that are important in your life.
It's
so
true.
It's creating time. So that's what we're doing now.
Well, we're glad you think we're important.
Yes. I do.
Awesome. You have a pretty incredible story, and we definitely wanted to have you on because you've created one of the more solid personal brands that I've seen in the fitness space over the last couple of years, and it's really exploded for you as of late.
Great.
From everything I've seen, and I was one of the last ones to get on Instagram, so I don't know what it was like for you before that, but like 2 or 3 years ago, like the last 2 or 3 years have just been exponential for you.
Yeah, definitely.
And so we want to touch on your evolution from softball at Arizona State,
right,
to Fit Method, because
right.
you've always had that entrepreneurial blood and knew that you were going to be in the fitness space, and now you're on your third brick and mortar business on top of everything else that you have going on. So we want to explore how all that has manifested for you, and then we know a lot of the same people and find a lot of value in that personal coaching space as well. So as we dive deeper down the rabbit hole with respect to coaching, we find that even our coaches have coaches.
It's necessary,
which is vital and incredible at the same time. So for everybody who doesn't know who you are, will you share with us who you are, what you represent, and what you got going on really quick?
So, yes, I'm Felicia. I'm actually born and raised here in Arizona, although there are not many of us. So, so born and raised here, and actually Gilbert's my hometown. That's where my business is as well. My story is interesting. I've always been one. My story is a true story of my passion that led to my purpose, and my passion being fitness and health. But at the time, I didn't know that was my passion. I just loved it. I've always been involved. I started working out in my room when my mom wouldn't let me have a gym membership. She's like, I'm not paying for that. You can work out in your bedroom or outside. And so I would work out with gallon jugs, and I'd go in the backyard and do laps and lunges. And I just loved exercise. Played softball at Arizona State. I remember one conversation my mom had with me, and she said, you really got to go to college. College is important. You are going to be the first in your family to go to college. It's important that you set that bar for your younger, cousins and siblings and things like that. She's like, but we don't have a lot of money. We have to figure out a way to get this paid for, either academically or through sports. And I had great grades. I really excelled in school. I was one of those that literally worked on a project when it was due a month later. I was just very homebody. And I was really good at sports. And so I excelled in softball, and I knew that was going to take me somewhere. So went to Arizona State and played with them, and, was able to get my schooling paid for, which was great. My family couldn't afford it. So I had to find a way. Although my mom didn't go to college, and I didn't have anyone to teach me how to do that. I had to figure a lot of stuff out on my own. And I think that's what life is about too. And that's something that school doesn't really teach you. You learn, and I know we were talking about school earlier, which I think school is amazing. I think it teaches you great skills, but you learn a certain amount for a test, let's say. The day after, you forget everything you just learned. It doesn't teach you life. And I think as you start going through life and learning the ins and outs and the ropes, that's where the real life begins, and for me, got to go to college, got to play softball, and that's where I found my passion in fitness. I was studying law at the time, knew it's not what I wanted to do. I was so not wanting to be in an office all day. I just loved helping people, and it was my niche. It was something that just came natural to me, where I wanted to help you, and I just knew that that's what I needed to do. I didn't know where it was going to take me. I didn't know I was going to be where I'm at now. Obviously, I'm a firm believer in goals, but I just knew that my passion was helping people, and that has led me to here. Right.
Awesome. Awesome. So we were talking, between softball and Fit Method, you competed in figure.
Yes.
For an awful long time.
Yeah. Almost 9 years. 9 years, which is a long time in that industry.
No, 100%.
Yes, it's
very long time in that industry. That's another part of me where I like taking on something new. So I remember I was working out at Gold's Gym. I saw a sign for a competition, and I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to do that. It was 2003. Figure was just introduced in 2001, the figure division, for those of you that don't know. And it was like not fitness, but it wasn't bodybuilding either. It was a mixture of both. It was sort of like a beauty pageant with muscle. And so I was like, I'm going to do that. Trained for my first show. I didn't have a coach. I researched all of my stuff on bodybuilding.com, where I looked up diets and what to do, how to do it, and trained for my first competition. I was miserable. I was like, I'm never going to do this again. Yeah. Like, never. But after being on stage, I remember placing third at my first show.
That's incredible.
Actually, here local.
Really good.
Yeah, it was so funny because right before, so I couldn't afford a suit at the time, and I remember going to the local, suit designer and saying, okay, how much do these suits cost? And they were like hundreds of dollars. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't afford that. I'm an intern and I go to college. Like I can't afford this. And so she's like, okay, well, I can just make you a base suit, and then I'll show you can just buy the glue and you can pin on your own rhinestones. I was like, okay, cool. So I bought the base suit, very inexpensive, and I went and got all the stones and started doing it myself. Yeah. And I was on stage for the first time, and I was posing, and all of the jewels started popping off.
No way.
Yes. I was like, oh my God. So as I'm sitting there posing, like they're all popped. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So that was my first experience competing, and I fell in love with it. I loved it. I loved being on stage. I loved the work that it took, because it wasn't necessarily about that moment on stage. It was literally the journey in between, because you really grow in that time, So I competed a couple more times locally. I won my first show, like the third show. I got first place, which I qualified for nationals. And then my very first national show, which was the USA's, I turned pro. Yeah, my very first national show. So I was an amateur for less than about a year. Yeah, about a year. And then turned pro, and then I was just thrown to the pro ranks. Had no idea. I was just one of those, like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just going with it. And then again, like I said before, I'm a firm believer in action creates momentum, creates opportunity. So I took an action to compete. Didn't know where it was going to take me. Turned pro. And part of that, I was in the right place at the right time. I was scouted by Muscle and Fitness Hers, editor-in-chief at that time, and shot my first cover a week later. Yeah, wow, so never in a million years would I have thought I would have been on cover of a magazine. That wasn't what I was doing it for. I just loved the competition of it, And just in the right place at the right time, and I was different. I was different looking too. So at that time, there was a lot of blonde hair, blue eyes, I just had a different ethnicity, different look at the time, that there wasn't a lot of that. So they kind of just took to that, and it created a lot of opportunities for me.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
When you were starting out, were you doing all of the nutrition and training by yourself, or did you have a coach?
In the beginning, yes. And then I did hire a coach going into nationals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so did hire a coach, and because I didn't know anything about the national level. I didn't know what I was doing, so I thought, okay, I think it's time to hire somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I did.
Well, at that point, you've shown enough self-reliance
Mm-hmm.
and commitment to the process
Mm-hmm.
and made it to a certain point on your own,
Right.
that even if you couldn't afford a coach in that moment, somebody's probably willing to take a gamble on you.
Right. Oh, definitely.
And help you,
Mhm.
take it to the next
Yeah.
step.
Well, actually, the coach that I did hire, he's a nationally known coach. He approached me at a show and said,
Mhm.
hey, do you have anyone you're working with? Because you should really do nationals. So he's the one that kind of coaxed me into doing a national show.
Yeah.
He said, you really have this great look and you would do well. So,
Sure.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
And we were just talking prior to the show, and we'll wrap around to this later, but you said that over the course of 9 years, you did an average of 7 shows a year.
Yeah.
That's
7 shows.
insane.
Mhm.
That's
The year that killed me was probably like 2010, 2011. I think it was like 10 shows. From that moment, that's when I placed the best I've ever placed. I was 4th place at the Arnold's Figure
Mhm.
International and 5th place at the Olympia, which for me, that was my best placing. I'd always been kind of worked my way up. The Olympia was kind of like my arch nemesis. I could never crack the top 10. I never was muscular enough. I never had the quads. I always did really well at the Arnold. But the Olympia I couldn't get. So once I hit that top 5 was my best look, my body kind of went downhill after that,
Really?
So it just wasn't working for me anymore.
Yeah.
Nothing would work. I would do carb cycles in the beginning. I handled carbs very well. You get to a certain point when you've been extreme dieting for so long that doesn't work for you anymore.
Sure.
So then I would do fat cycles. That wasn't working for me anymore. My body was a mess at the end of it. It just, nothing worked. I remember my last show was in India, and I knew I wasn't in shape, and I knew I didn't look how I should have looked, but I'm not one to like flake out. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it.
right.
So I went and I competed knowing that I wasn't at my best. And I remember coming home, at that time, just knew that it was done, that I was done competing and my body just had enough. You just know.
Yeah.
Sure.
I tried to hold on one more year and nothing was working for me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Wow. That's insane. So you probably experienced a lot of hormonal issues.
Oh, yeah.
Adrenal
totally.
fatigue.
Oh, my gosh. It was just one of those things. And I should have quit a year earlier. I was kind of pulling like one of those like Brett Favre moments where I'm like, I can't let go.
Yeah.
Because at that time, I felt like the competition and the shows defined me.
Sure.
I didn't know how to be anyone else. I didn't know. I only knew myself as getting ready for the next show.
Right.
People saying, what show are you getting ready for? What are you going to do? Are you getting in shape? Like when I wasn't in shape, I had to do a show to get back in shape. That's not normal to be like so off, you know what I mean? To be like, when you're not competing, you really look like you're not competing, and then when you are competing, you have to like work so hard to get to that sort of shape. And that's what I define myself as. I define myself as a competitor being on stage, and I didn't know anything else. So I was scared. I was scared that when I left, like I wasn't going to be relevant anymore. I wasn't going to have goals anymore. And because doing that for so long, 9 years, it sort of becomes who you are,
Exactly, yeah.
And but it took a lot of like soul searching to move past that and know that my health and happiness was so important. And I am more than just a body on stage. I'm a person and I have a voice. So it took a lot of going through that. I had to go through that to experience that and also appreciate where I'm at now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying, as you were going through that for 9 years, you had a lot of people that you allowed to take direction for your career. And
absolutely.
You didn't feel as if you had a voice. Is it because they had been in the game so much longer than you, and you kind of got to that level so fast that was kind of the dynamic that created that for you?
Yeah, I was just, it was a lot of pressure. It was pressure from your sponsor, from the company, that you're with your coach, your manager, agent. You're I guess it's assumed that you're supposed to do certain things. You have to do this many shows because this person's doing this and you got to do this. I was always competing in certain shows in California, because that's just what I did. And I was told to do that. So I never really said, oh, nope, I'm tired and I want to sit. And I think I want to wait till the Olympia. No, you have to keep the momentum. So you got to do this show so that the Olympia, you're not forgotten, or, it was always this game, right? Yeah. And it got really tiring. And I towards the end, I wasn't doing it for myself anymore. You know, I was doing it for everybody else. So,
but all the while, as we said in the intro, Fit Method now is your third brick and mortar business. So over the course of those 9 years, you were still doing business stuff.
I was.
So where, like you said, you have to find the time for the things that are important. But how was it with all that drawing on you physically and personally? How was it running those previous two operations?
I had no time for anything else. I remember it was all work. I remember going to my little sister's birthday party. I have an 18-year-old sister. We're 16 years apart. And I remember going to a birthday party. She was like 6 or 7. And I was like, oh my gosh, how are you already 7? Like I remember you were 2 yesterday. Wow. And I'd missed all those years. And I don't live very far away.
Right.
And I remember sitting there thinking, what am I doing? Like, I am just working. I'm not really enjoying the fruits of the labor. I'm always in the gym. I'm always competing, and I'm always training other people. It's like all my energy is sucked, and I have nothing left for me and for those that I love, So it was one of those wake-up calls. But in that time, I remember I was just always in the gym, either for myself or for others.
Right.
So that was who I was.
I call it the nursing syndrome, just because my mom and my mother-in-law just so happen to be nurses, and what they found in their professional careers, when you find yourself in a space where you're just a natural caretaker, it's easy to leave yourself behind.
Oh, absolutely.
As you spend so much time investing in others, trying to make them better, get them out of their own way so they can, set goals and accomplish goals. You're so invested in those external activities that you don't take any time to really focus on yourself.
Right. And I'm an introvert. I know that's kind of odd to think because I'm out there quite a bit, like talking and working with people and teaching. But I'm very introverted. Like, I have to go home to reset myself and just sit on the couch. And that's why I love to meditate or just find that space to just sit, because I need to reset, because everything, working with people as you do, they need help and you're giving yourself, and it's like no one's filling you up. You know what I mean? No one's filling your cup up. So I literally have to go home and just kind of reset myself.
Yeah. And when you do, especially in the very beginning, as you're becoming aware of that dynamic in your life, when you do take that step back and you accept responsibility for your own betterment, it's easy for you to look at yourself in a negative light and call that selfish.
Oh, absolutely.
So how long did it take for you to be okay with taking time for you and still being able to excel in delivering for others?
Yeah. I finally realized it when I was I was burning the torch at both ends, and I just kind of hit, I think being not necessarily an entrepreneur, but let's just say you have a lot of stuff going on, right? And you're growing and you're building, and at some point you're going to fall. You're going to fall several times. During those times when I fell, I had to really sit back and analyze and say, you know what? I have to take this time. I need to force myself to take a vacation. So now I have set vacations where I go and I'm on vacation. I'm resting, because it's kind of like that whole concept when when you're in a plane, it's going down and the thing comes down and you put it on yourself first versus your child.
Right.
It's like, if you don't save yourself first, you can't help anyone else.
Right.
And so if I'm going down, what good am I going to be in anything? What good am I going to be in my business? What good am I going to be when I eventually have a family? I'm not going to be good for anybody.
Right.
So if I'm not taking care of myself, everything else in my life will falter.
Sure.
So, and I realized that after a couple times when I hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
And you're kind of at your wit's end. I think owning a business, you definitely feel that, where you're like, what am I doing? Like, or you ask yourself, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
All this stress and time, and but the thing is, like, I thrive off that, and it's how you handle the stress. It's your perspective on it. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's like all these good positive things, and you have to change your perspective on it. So it forced me to do that many times in my life.
Sure. What was rock bottom for you?
Oh gosh, a couple times were rock bottom. When you feel like nothing is working out, you feel like, well, I sold my last gym, and which is a good thing. I needed to get out of that and wanted to do my own thing. And at that point when you're starting over again, you feel like you can never get back on top. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You walk away and you're like, man, am I ever going to have that again? But luckily for me, I love this book called The Slight Edge.
Oh, yes. That book is amazing.
It's so great. It's like when you have the certain skill set to build something, let's say once a millionaire, let's say you lose it. I bet that millionaire who lost everything, went bankrupt, I bet they can make $1 million again. I don't know how quick, but they can get it again because they've had the skill set to create that income. They know how to do it.
Right.
So I knew how to start a business. I knew the time and the energy and the business plan, everything that went into it. I knew how to do that because I already did it once before. So I knew that I could do it again. At the time when I sold my business and I was just like, I felt like I was starting over, you feel like, oh man, I have this huge mountain to climb again. But you got to keep climbing.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this whole analogy, which I talk about in class. I teach class, and at the end of class, I do like a little motivational talk meditation for the class. And I talk about this Mount Everest, right? We all want to get up this mountain because the views at the top are amazing. Amazing. And so 80 people are all trying to climb this mountain. Statistically, 80%, make it up maybe a quarter of the way, 80% fail, go back to the bottom, but do not try again. 20 are left, go up a little bit further, half the mountain. Again, statistically, 80%, too hard, they come back down, they don't want to try it again, they leave. 5 people are left. Try a little bit more, 80 people, 1 person is left. That person keeps trying to climb that mountain to get to the top. They have failed.